I don't want to lose our audience. Hi, everybody. We're
Hello,
figuring
everyone.
this out.
You're learning with us.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. This is our first production all together as a team, and we've literally been using this Restream for, I don't know, 2 weeks? We've been figuring, I don't even think it's been 2 weeks. So please bear with us. Thank you. We've got lots of exciting content coming up. We've got Ethica Data Alliance coming up. We've got Sean Stam from Royal Soham Farms coming to talk about what spring is like for a legacy farmer. What else? We've got some breeders coming on, and then we're going to have a big smoke out. Oh, Joey Berger's coming on. Joey is actually quite a brave soul. He created the first cannabis trade association back in 2009 up here in Humboldt County, and he is doing a lot of amazing work teaching regenerative farming. So I would like to play a little video real quick so we can get our audience back, and then we'll get Sean up here while the video is playing. And who's interviewing Sean? I can't see my schedule right now.
Me.
You are? All right.
I've got it. Yep, I got Sean.
Okay.
Lovely.
We're setting a new standard for, what a cannababe is. She has many things. She is mama, she has belly, she has butt, if she does, but she's not just like a bikini clad, wet nurse. So, blessings to you, bikini clad wet nurse, but there's more to a cannababe.
Okay, I just want to say I clicked on the wrong link to set Sean up. But hey, Sean, good to see you. Meet Adelia. Hey. And Michael, right?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to step out.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Sean. And first, I just want to welcome back everyone for joining us. Again, just a quick notation. If you are interested, go check out our auction right now. It is live, HumboldtGrace.org. Click on the menu tab and visit the fire recovery auction. Keep getting those bids in. I know we had a little bit of a technical difficulties, but we're going to keep the show going, and I'm excited to meet you officially right here, live on camera, Sean. So
yeah,
thank
nice
you
to meet you
for tuning in. Can you, for those that are unfamiliar, can you share a little bit more about your background and Soham Royal?
Yeah, so I was born and raised up here in a little tiny town called Honeydew in Humboldt County. It's kind of out in southern Humboldt in the middle of nowhere, where a lot of the back to the landers, first settled and started homesteading and growing organic vegetables and growing cannabis to help supplement their incomes and raise their families. And a lot of this, Humboldt culture kind of evolved out from the hills where I grew up. So I've since, I've gone off to college and went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Now we have a Cal Poly in Humboldt too. But I got a degree in mechanical engineering, and then ended up coming home and kind of developing the family business right in, time for legalization into this new era. So I kind of initially was just going to come home and do it for startup capital. And then that evolved into, I guess I can keep doing this since now it's not illegal. My family was growing, and I've got kids, and I didn't want to be putting my livelihood at risk any more than I had to. So, now the struggle is real in this industry, and it's time to take another hard look at it and see how much further we can push. But still going strong right now and prepping for this season.
You
we
came
do
back
about that.
to, you're still in a startup in a sense. You're now, you came to raise capital for a startup, and now with the way, I know it's not necessarily a startup because it's been a, long-term a family thing, but with the transition and everything, it is now a startup with all these regulations, new things you're learning every
Definitely.
day. Yeah. So now, today is the spring equinox, and which is obviously the beginning of spring, which means it's time to start preparing as a cannabis farmer. Can you walk us through, that overall process for you and how you're getting ready?
Yeah, in this new market, it's not really time to get started. We've been going, we never stop. So I had to keep a really, when you're making your own cuts and doing your own genetics, I have insulated greenhouses, and I've been keeping healthy mother plants alive all winter, with just a little supplemental like LED lighting to keep them from triggering. But now it is time to start working the dirt, getting the covers back on the greenhouses since the snow, we hope, is kind of gone. We're up at 2,500 feet, so I got to take the covers off to protect and kind of disassemble the whole light depth system so that it doesn't get damaged by the winter. So right now we're getting covers back on. We're tilling. We're knocking down our cover crops that we planted in our beds, because once the covers are off, then the natural rain and snow waters the beds, and we put a bunch of different beans and veg and different things to lock in the nitrogen. So now we're killing those cover crops so we can till them back in as we add in our amendments and, start brewing new batches of things and get all of the cuttings. It's been a lot of cuttings, a lot of transplanting. But it's exciting, and the year is off to a great looking start. Our plants are looking amazing. Just hope the market can reward us for some of the hard work that we do this year.
Yeah. And, you mentioned snow, and, we are also here to raise funds for fire season as well. But what other challenges do you have to prepare for?
I mean, there's so many, I can't even begin to list them all. Right now we're doing some burn piles out there, because that's always a fear and a struggle is, the fires. So we did a lot of tree work in the off beginning and middle of last year. So we're burning a lot of that, so we don't have as much danger with that. A lot of my crew has actually kind of chosen to go other ways. So they're, doing different things, but they're helping me get the year started. So I'm having to interview people and find new people that believe in what we're doing and want to help further the dreams that we have and work with us to do that. So that's a big one. Just getting a great team together and restructuring, because this whole economy has changed so drastically in the last year. In the last 5 years, it's the regulatory system is really making things hard. We're still working on selling the product from last year as this year's expenses start, so budgeting's huge, and just trying to figure out how we can even sustain keeping the business going right now, to be honest, is a real struggle. So
And that's the thing that needs to come to light, is that is the challenge. Again, not a lot of those that are either unfamiliar with California, or maybe they may not have as much connection with growers as, it might be nice to. They might not have an understanding of those struggles. So, for those that are interested in maybe potentially you're hiring, how can they connect with you? I have a couple more questions, but I don't want to lose that part because we were just talking about it. So
yeah.
How can they contact you for that?
Through Instagram is one way, and then just email sohumroyalcannabis@gmail.com, another way. Not hard to get a hold of. All the references on our website, sohumroyal.com, and our Instagram, and they all feed back to me, so I'm able to check all of that stuff.
So you can get in direct contact with Sean as well through there. Now, things have changed. And, for those though that are unfamiliar with the process of growing cannabis, can you share a little bit about how long, about what it takes and how long it is until harvest season for you?
Yeah, so it definitely depends on what type of farming you do and what type of grow you have. We're a combination of mixed light and full term. And so with the mixed light, that's, we're doing light deprivation. So basically we plant the plants, they start to grow. We keep them at a certain light hours to make them in veg. When we decide the time is right and we get our canopy where we want it, we flip them and make them have 12 and 12 hours of light. And at that point, they begin to flower, which takes about 2 months. So it's really labor intensive. You have to be out there pulling huge covers over whatever, greenhouse size you have. We have like an outside greenhouse and then like another little inside greenhouse inside of that with arms that roll the cover down and back up so one person can do it. But it's still like you're battling the elements out there doing that. And then once that harvest is in, it'll be about July, then we'll replant and do that a second time. And that's where the highest quality for the market is coming from, because it's kind of mimicking the light cycles of indoor and producing a really high quality flower that's ready in a faster time. Some people are using like full on HPS lights and LED lights to do that. We don't do that. We have little tiny, like super efficient, because we're off grid. So, and then for the full term season, you really want to plant more around beginning of June, and you start those plants, a month and a half before that. And then those will be out there all the way through mid-October, November, even early December, depending on the genetics. And but unfortunately, the market really has shifted to a place where most people who only have outdoor aren't even planning on growing this year, because the price that the labor and just the cost of producing that pound and the taxes and regulations that go along with having that license are far beyond what we can get for that product. So it makes no sense. Like, I'm literally paying people money every time I sell a pound at $350. I'm paying them $150 of money that I spent to produce that I'll never see again. And I had to pay all of my workers, and everyone else is getting paid except for the business. And in a sense, so it's really challenging to start up another year with compounding years of horrible market conditions kind of building up against us right now.
And this is common. This this story is happening all over the board. Everybody is, not even breaking even potentially. Most of them are losing money. We're all
taking a loss this last year, and most people can't afford to do it again. So that's the real struggle right now, is finding a way to make it happen this year.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. A lot of farms are going fallow this year, and we mentioned how in one county there's 6 out of over 450 that were in the process.
Yeah.
It is a tough situation, but what I know about us is that we're really good at navigating tough situations.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've been through a rough time and, been up against some serious obstacles. We just need some changes to happen in the industry in general and in our market. I think the education's really coming around, where people are starting to value the quality that we're producing. We're actually part of this initiative with cookies, and they're highlighting some Humboldt farms, and it's called the Humboldt Grown Initiative. And they're going to be selling Humboldt produced flower by organic, good producers in their packaging, and really showcasing the quality that can come from outdoor, just to help educate consumers even in that side of the market.
That's good to hear. And too, what is another way those that are tuning in, how can they support you? I know it's probably going to their local dispensaries, asking for Sohum Royal? Any other ways out there that they can help support?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the best way. Just caring about where your products come from and like trying to get to who's really producing this stuff and what's really going into it. Because the more people do realize that there's a difference between stuff that's completely produced with just straight chemical fertilizers and often too much of them. It lacks the terpene profiles. It lacks the full-bodied effects that true organic sun-grown flower does.
Thank you, Sean.
Yes, we're all working hard to figure out ways to share with the rest of the world what Sean and other folks already understand about the plant. It needs that sunshine, right, Sean?
Oh yeah, love with real sunshine. That's the truth.
Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us, Sean. We appreciate it and sharing a little bit of your story with everybody. Adelia, do you know what do we have next?
Yeah. So
you guys. Yeah.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah. Next up is so it is Evian and Christian.
All right.
We're going to be Ethical Data Alliance.
Nice. We're going to show a quick video and then we'll have them on. Thank you.
Random roadblocks in the mountains and say someone stole a tractor or something, and they'd just set up a roadblock. And so we'd have the kids from high school, like Ishi and them, and Sam next door. They would call us when they'd get to the high school and be like, the roadblock was on the Petrolia side, the roadblock was on the Honeydew side today. And so we'd drive out of town because we could go either way. But this one couple got caught with like 2 joints, I believe, at the roadblock, and they forced their way up onto their house. And they ended up beating the case through one of the first ever medical defenses in the state, and it gave us the curtilage law, which gave us the right that they could no longer search our greenhouses just due to the fact that they could see green inside it.
Right.
And so that was one of the major first things
I remember
that gave people, the courage to
get it out there,
to put the greenhouse out.
I remember
make it
that.
Bigger.
Hey, Michael.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'm going to pull Christian, and let's see. There she is. And Evian. All right. Hi, guys. This is Michael. He's a host at Royal Grown Radio and also works for Royal Gold Soil and knows a lot. And I thought it would be great for you guys to talk to him because he has the perspective that a lot of folks have. Why does data matter when we're talking about this plant, and what the heck are we digitalizing something that's so organic? And so I'd love to put you two together and step out and hear what you all have to say. Welcome.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Lele.
Hello, Christian. Hello, Evian. Really a pleasure to meet you both. And like Lele said, I'm so intrigued by all of this kind of new homogenization of data and genetics and all of these things moving forward to protect the legacy cultures. And tell me a little bit about what Ethical Data Alliance does and what the purpose is here.
So I think I'll take that one. So basically a couple of years ago, I'm sure you're aware of what happened with the whole Phylloskate drama. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching are very familiar with that. And formerly there was something called the Open Cannabis Project that was kind of involved with Phylos. And the whole idea had been to help protect genetics, and help protect some of the legacy people and create using data and that imploded in a whole bunch of ways. But there's a few wonderful people, Angela Baca, Dale Hunt, myself, slowly started to formulate this idea that we needed something that was fully transparent to help bring, honestly, it's to help protect all the work that we've done for so long, especially breeders and the genetics piece and producers. And so we created this, and then slowly the ideas came in for technology. And so Christian joined us, and we really see this missing link of being able to storytell all the way from the breeders to, the genomic sequencing, all of these different little pieces, the nursery, the producer, all of the cultivation information. And we realized that because of the issues that had happened previously with like ethics and transparency, that it needed to happen in such a way that it was a completely transparent mission so that people could join us. And basically, this is kind of like a gift back to the community. So we founded a nonprofit with the help of Ed Rosenthal under the arm of GreenAid, which is a nonprofit he's had for a long time. And so the Ethical Data Alliance has basically come together. There's all sorts of incredible people. And the vision was that that Christian came in with a great vision that I'll let him speak to it, but the Eden Protocol is basically separate from the EDA, is basically a gatekeeper to that project. And the idea is that we're going to be able to utilize the blockchain technology to tell supply chain traceability. And so, people have concerns around digitizing the plant. I think that, we already work in the regulated adult use market with things like, we're kind of forced to use these seed to sale tracking systems and other things, but it's a missing link as far as how we can actually elegantly tell the story of all of these different things and then actually certify the data and own our own data, which I'm sure everybody's very well aware of the fact that like Google and the metaverse and all of these other things, anytime you're plugging and playing with something like that, you're giving away your data. And this allows the system that Christian will point to shortly, basically allows people to plug and play. And it's for everybody. It's not, for everybody who wants to choose to do it ethically and transparently, I guess would be the better way to say it. But it's kind of a collective vision. We have a really incredible team of people we've been working with for 2 years now on this project. And we have the blockchain professor at Harvard. We have, wonderful doctors and lawyers and producers and cultivators and all sorts of people who are involved. And it really is for everybody. So, that's kind of brief overview. I mean, there's more to it, but that's kind of the gist of what we're doing.
It's absolutely fascinating. And the depth and breadth of the entire project is really what kind of really appeals to me and really has me so interested. And so it's not about necessarily controlling. Yes, there is some degree of wanting to have control over your own property and, protecting that, but it's about being able to share the stories in a big way. It's about track and trace, being linked to a more ethical form of data. And I love what you said about the data being captured by metaverse and etc. Our data is valuable. It is extremely valuable, and we need to find ways to protect that in an ethical way when there's so many, unethical companies out there grabbing the data as fast as we share it, and platforms kind of unwittingly giving things away. And, the Phylos kind of scandal, if you will, was another example of people offering data and information in what they thought was a safe way to only have it, disseminated in a way that wasn't what they thought. So I'm interested. And so how does the electronic data side come in to play with this blockchain? Because that's where it starts to lose me as not the most technologically advanced person.
I'll take that one, Evian. Pleasure to be here. It's an honor, actually, to be here with all the real OG people who've been providing great medicine for so long and fighting for the rights to do so. So I come from the crypto world and not unrelated space in terms of the difficulties that cryptocurrencies have had to face with the relationship with society. But when you look at what cryptocurrencies are doing, they are giving you back the key to something. And okay, that works for Bitcoin, but when you think about it, you can also apply it to your data. And make no mistake, we are now in the information age or some such, and your data is leaking, right? It's leaking out. And these companies are taking it. This is recorded. They're analyzing the metadata. They know more about me and you than me and you know about ourselves, which is also why everything is harder right? What happened to being able to just make a living with one job, or one, kind of, passion? No, now you got to have 3, 4 things going on, because what happened? Oh yeah, the data is leaking. And so much of the value of what we produce is now in the data. If we don't control it, someone else does for sure, and we know where that goes. So it's time now, right? These cryptocurrencies, they provide the the magic formula, right? The secret sauce, which we can reuse. We don't need to reinvent here anything. We can reuse something that has been now working for 10 plus 12 years in the financial world, and apply it to our data. And then the question is, okay, what does that mean? What you do is that you use these technologies to take ownership of your data. When you want to notarize, something, or if you want to, capture the IP on a thing you've built. It's hard, right? You got to bring evidence. There's so much, the requirements. You got to be able to show evidence, a lot of stuff. So that's all data. So do it. And now the tools with computers and Internet of Things, it can be used to spy on you, but it can also be used for you to spy on your crops, right? And on your product. And so film it. You play Mozart. Okay, which song? Record it. Someone might want to know that one day. And so all these little things add up, right? Now that data today you keep in your database, and it's got a lot of firewalls and securities and locks and don't touch and guard dogs, and nobody can get to your data because it's valuable, except it's on your Google Drive, so Google's got it. But the rest of us that's that. But it's valuable. But what do you do? How do you value it? Again, before crypto, very hard to do, right? You have to go to markets. Now it's a whole thing. That's complicated. So now the tools are there. You can create these things, these, we'll just call them tokens, but it's just it's a coupon, right? It's a club membership point. It's a frequent flyer mile. It's a unit of something, and you can attach information to it. So it's good for tracking maybe how many miles you fly, but it can also be good for tracking the food miles, or the miles that the plant has traveled from the farm to the dispensary. And so there's so much information to know. We know it's captured. How do we share it? And that's where the Ethical Data Alliance and me kind of joined. We met on that question. Okay, so we know the problem. The problem is that the data needs to move more, right? We need to share more the data so we can understand the plant better, so the physicians, so the patients, so the consumers, so the growers, so everybody, right, can know more about the plant. But as soon as I share things, someone else steals it and takes it for their own and claims it. Now I'm working hard again. So what we're doing with the blockchain technology, if you will, is when we're notarizing everything. We're using blockchain as a third-party witness, which is what a notary is, right? So I'm using a legal term here. I know, this is not the legal definition of notarizing, but it's the same process where we're using an independent third party. Let's call that a blockchain. And the blockchain is just a stamp. You just put the stamp there. The blockchain doesn't have the data. The data stays very secure with you. But what you put on the blockchain in a public space is something meaningless. It's like a fingerprint of your data. It can prove, and the blockchain is there to prove the time and date when you had that fingerprint. So it can prove that on this date, right, you filed your notes about how you were aiming to reach certain goals with this batch, and you still don't know if you've reached them, but here are the notes about what the goals are. So that if you reach them and you find that out 6 months from now, you can go back and prove to people, because there's a fingerprint and a date stamp and a notary stamp, if you will, on your document. And all of that is doable digitally right now for practically no cost. Most of the tools to do this exist for free. We're doing pilots right now with growers and a bunch of participants along the supply chain. And Evian mentioned, we're telling the story of our product. So we're using this technology. Everybody's, what do you want to tell about what you do, about your product? right? Everyone's got a little value add that why my thing is a little better than your thing. Okay, well, say that, right? And say that, put it on a little token thing, right? And then we're stringing all of these and we're distributing that with the product. So the patient, the person buying at the end of the supply line says, oh, I can scan a QR code. And here's the string history written by the actual people who actually touched this product. And it proves the authenticity, where it's been, when, whatever you want to share. And this is the public face. Obviously, you can do private stuff too, but we'll leave it at that for now. All right. Maybe that's
wow. So that's amazing. So you're basically taking the technology that says, you know, we can assign that QR code essentially. You can view this and we can say, okay, this person brought this genetic over, or this genetic was found at this place and traces back to Afghanistan, and this other genetic came from Africa, and these were combined in these locations at these times, and this is the value of this process.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to tell. There's an infinite number of stories to tell, and today, how do you tell? Right? You're just a nursery. How do you get your story out? I mean, you know, by the time it becomes a commercial product, nobody thinks about the nursery anymore. So there's so much, and now we have the technology to do it. Everybody can do this. Again, it doesn't cost much or anything. So as long as you do it the same way, then we can string whatever you've got to say about your product. And this is now at the batch level. You know, we're all used now to SKU numbers that are more like, you know, product level. Now we're going one more level deep, right? And again, the technology is there to support that level of detail nowadays. So it really empowers the little guy, right? Because those are big guy tools. This is the Walmart kind of technology, right? Where Walmart was able to tell the world, you shall do it like this. And everybody said, yes, yes. And of course, Walmart then had an advantage because everybody was doing it the Walmart way. So that's how the big guys do it, top down. This is a technology that's completely bottoms up. We're all little guys, and we're doing the tech we need in order to get our value add and the value of our product out there, so that when someone, you know, has to choose between two products, they're informed, they can make the right decision, and the information is provably authentic from the source. That's important in the world of, you know, lies.
Oh yeah, and as the future comes, I think it's just this missing link. You know, I think a lot of us who have been in the cannabis space for a long time really see that there's a lot of issues with supply chain traceability, and that metric for the adult use only fills a certain gap for people, and that there's so many missing links. And a hugest part of the link is for me, and part of the reason I felt so passionate and have worked on this project for the past 2 years. As a nonprofit, I'm a board member of the Ethical Data Alliance, is because there is this massive issue with authenticity of genetics across the board. And so that for me was my passion, because I feel like it's like I've run 5 different cuts of wedding cake and nobody really knows which the true one is and how it all authenticates. And then for the end consumer at the patient level, if they find some, you know, people need consistent medicine also. And I think that there's lots of issues, and basically the technology that we've been working towards is solutions to so many different problems along the way. And it really is for everybody. This is a plug and play system that could work if people are on board with the genetic or on board with the ethics piece. And I will just say too that, you know, a big part for the group with the Ethical Data Alliance, we were doing our founding, was that we really do care. There's a lot of care around sustainability, and you know, we use the UN sustainable guidelines as kind of like a guiding light for us in building that, because there is concerns around the technology and the impact to the environment. So we definitely have been trying to caretake the whole process, and as much of it as possible. We're so blessed to have Christian, because as much of it as possible, we want to make sure is accessible for people like us, like that I can go in and learn how to do this, or somebody on my team can learn how to do this, and that we're able to show, you know, this beautiful proof of concept with the pilots that we've been working on. This is, I believe, the second pilot that we're working towards, and there's multiple kind of happening at the same time now. But it's the same essential theory that, you go to the store and you buy some green juice. You have no idea where it came from. You have no idea it's authentically what somebody says it is. And so essentially, I think cannabis has the ability to start showcasing, and because it's such a complex supply chain that we operate in, very few other industries have this really nuanced. We have breeders, we have the historical breeding before that, we have genomic sequencing, we have the nurseries, we have the producers, we have all of the different ancillary things that come in there. And then from the producer, we have labs, we have COAs, it gets made into products sometimes, and then from there there's dispensary, and then there's there's grading companies, there's third-party certifications for Sun and Earth Cert, all these different things, but there's no way to elegantly storytell the whole piece. And also for it to help, if somebody really finds something, and it's not just, I want to say also that in addition to cannabis, we were really looking at all biological substances that may need some sort of protection also along these lines, and how, we've already seen a lot of issues with IP, and I believe other people today have spoken to that. And so we've had a lot of legal input on the IP side too, and how we can actually, this really is a service back to the community. And we encourage people to come and join us and join the mission. It's a nonprofit mission. It's all volunteer based. So we have a really great team, and it's open for people to join the efforts and see how we can, create solutions for these issues in the industry.
It's just absolutely so fascinating. And the team has really been so impressive to me. The people that I've talked to, including yourselves, Jeff and Lelania and Kevin, and what an amazing group of people to come from so many different perspectives. And for me at this point, this is one of the things that I think really speaks to the depth of the project, is the value of the alternate perspectives. If you have a bunch of experts in their field coming at it and viewing it from a completely different perspective and elevating the entire platform together to put power back in the little man's hand and give control of your data, which, wow, it's mind-boggling to me.
From that perspective, this project is attracting attention from the cryptocurrency community. And we've received funding earlier on last year from a group called Filecoin for a technical component of the project. So it's very specific, but still, right? The crypto community is looking at what we're doing. They're like, oh, they need help here, and they finance one of the things we needed, and the thing we needed to give away for free. Right, so it's not we're building a big, huge corporation here. No one's making money. It's something we're giving out for free. And this group said, yeah, someone needs to pay for it to get a good engineer to do it, and so that's happening. The ethical data community, which is a thing all unto its own, right? Kind of like it's kind of the big data has had its day now for 10, 15, 20 years. There's starting to be a pushback, right? And
at all levels
as a thing. So that community is coming in saying, who are you guys? Oh yeah, blockchain, cannabis. So the cannabis community is in, and the supply chain management is huge. Look, our world, it's going crazy right now. We need supply chain traceability. We need to know, how our products get from one place to another. So those groups are also interested in what we're doing. So it's a really, really exciting pilot that will bring a lot of attention to the brands, to the people involved, right? I mean, we say it's small. It is small. Individuals are welcome too. You can grow in your closet and still gain value from this. But if you don't, and you have a farm and you're trying to get your farm name out there, this is also a good way to do it. And some of this attention will be global. So it's going to be rock and roll.
I love it. And, I came into this conversation through Royal Grown Radio, just asking questions through Lelania and the, Humboldt Grace community. But as somebody who's involved with Royal Gold as a company, it lets me think, oh, wow, there are so many similar applications that we can use for what we do, and say soil building, or say, like you were saying, a green juice where you can track back, no, this is cholera, this is spirulina. These are the genetic profiles of these individual organisms going in. We're building soil with these ingredients to achieve this goal. And it just provides so much value to the concepts and not just the product.
100%. And just really quick, Christian, I just want to say that even like for Royal Gold and for other, so it's like, because we don't know, like what's we actually have had people from the Grow Off join us in the past. And I know that, they do a lot of data collection on the competition, and Royal Gold was involved with that. And so you can start to see also the difference in the growing, if people are growing the same cultivar in the soil, and that the soil used goes with that producer information on the, and people can also, here's the thing that's important, I think we highlight, is that people could share as much or as little as they want, because some of the things are IP that you don't want to share publicly, but there are things that you maybe do want to share. So it kind of, this platform will allow people to share as much or as little as they want. And something fun like that is like, it's like if your secret sauce is that you use Royal Gold soil, then maybe you don't want people to know that that's your secret sauce. So you have the ability to hide that piece of data. Or if you want to share that and be like, look at how our results compared to this result are so incredible. And I think that it's just going to help take us forward because of post-prohibition era thinking with the science and all of that. We're still kind of stuck in this zone where we're still learning about the plant. We're still learning about what works best. So it is a great platform for any ancillary business that wants to come. Eden is going to really, like Christian said, it's a free protocol that is going to be able for people to use to help plug and play together all that we do.
Well, thank you so much to both of you for really kind of opening my eyes to a lot of the depth of this concept. I really am so very interested. Thank you so much. I really, truly appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us. It's an ongoing conversation. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Oh, we lost Michael. How did we lose Michael?
Oh, I'm back.
Thank you, you guys. And I appreciate that you said it's more than just genetics, because when I look at our regions, Michael, I see IP, like you said, your soil, how you make your product, how you water your product could even end up becoming part of your IP in this process. And I think that's where our jewels are, is in all that experience, because that's what we have more than most other places in the world, is a lot of experience with this plant.
Yeah, it makes me
that. Yeah, the storytelling of that is key, and I think that's the missing link, is like all this legacy story that we have, and also the Appalachian piece, and all of these different things. Like what it's how the technology is going to help us showcase what sets these different areas and different genetics and different growers apart, and how the previous speaker, when he was speaking about the organic grown, it's like how do we really start to educate people, and this platform is going to help us to really educate the end consumers.
Right. So in tying back to that, like, so essentially they can document, oh, these hugel beds were built in 1997 or 2002 or whatever. This is the hugel bed, and this is the 20 years of work that went into developing the biome that produced this individual jar of cannabis.
Yep. And here's our beautiful soil tests, or here are the things. And same thing though, people can provide as much or as little information as they want, and when they own their own data, so it's not that sort of thing. But if there are things that you don't want to share, I just definitely want to reiterate that that's it's up to you what you want to share, so we can advance this for everybody. I think is a big part of that too.
What allows them to monetize and market those items in another way. And that's really important too. So you can keep this private, or you can say, oh, hey, if you'd like to join our network, then we can provide you more and more information. If you want to support us as a farm to be out here producing this in this way, so it's available at your local dispensary, we're losing money on every pound.
Yep.
Buy in for $5 a year as a subscription to have all of this data at your fingertips. Whereas, random person who just buys it off the street doesn't get that, but it allows them to monetize in a way that is not monetizing the cannabis. So they're not paying the cannabis taxes. They're not paying the registration costs. This is a separate stream of subscription as a marketing to bring in an alternate revenue fund if they want to use their data in that way, but they have the data to document and protect. Right,
Michael, you just hit it right on the. Data is a new product, right? And today it's a product we don't value much because the state forces us to give much away, right? But then it's stuck in place; nobody can see it anyway, so it's lost. And there's no way to monetize it, right? Because how do you how do you sell it? The monetization is important. And again, this is where cryptocurrency technologies are built for this. So our data is becoming a separate product from the product. So when I buy the package, I scan the code, I see the farm that grew the product, say, oh, wow, thank you, farmer. Tip the farmer 50 cents. Or I don't know. and cryptocurrency do this super easy. This is not even hard to do anymore. So we just need to show people how to do it, and that's what we're doing.
Well, it's putting the power back into the little guy's hand, the Bezoses of the world. These people are doing this now, and that's how they're amassing unprecedented wealth, and how the little man who's out here creating this data and information can't get a dime of it. So I'm just, again, thank you for really opening my eyes to these concepts. I didn't understand it all before this conversation.
Yeah. Yay! We accomplished it. Good job.
And it really is, like, I just want to say quickly that I really want that passion piece of it is really to bring attention to some of the places that really have fallen by the wayside. And I think that all of the work that people have done for so long with breeding these magical cultivars, and we have all of these incredible varieties, and that it really I really want to see a way that we can hold that in the future, because there are a lot of other outside influences coming in. And I think that the more we're able to stand together as a group and also show that these things have history and have story, and actually aren't just, I have my own concerns around other larger groups coming in and kind of controlling certain parts of the genetic resources and that we have. So there's definitely there's like a passion here to make sure this project works. And I think that it will serve everybody, and hopefully other plants beyond cannabis and fungi or other things along the way too. The vision is large once we get this dialed. So
thank you, Evian. Well, next we have Joey Berger and Tamara coming up, who are living that passion. Thank you, both of you, for coming on. I think we accomplished a lot with Michael understanding all of that. It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
It is.
It really is. It's just, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be able to know that we can really protect ourselves, and that there's a new market that we can build. It's all about find the workaround. All right, I'm going to put on a quick video, and then we're going to have, I think, Adelia and Joey and Tamara up talking about regenerative farming.
Thank you, Lilania.
To think back to those days and to see where it's come to now, where there's all these folks coming in from everywhere, popping up greenies and establishing their businesses, and choosing the strains and getting them out there and making them popular. It's like, on some level, I feel like it's kind of gotten out of our hands that way, for sure. They'll never take away from the history here, because you can't.
Right.
But I mean, corporate America is doing its best to hone in on us, and the money that's involved with it.
Right, but that's where our culture's at right now. Is they haven't dealt with a culture like us and the fight that we've had to do. And it's like, when we moved to Humboldt, we weren't born here, but we chose to stick a flag up and tell them to fuck off, and we'll fight camp and grow weed on the hillside in the Mattole Valley or wherever the fuck we want. Like you said, they would come every day, helicopters, and they would stop at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock and go home.
Yeah.
And then they'd come back to the exact same spot.
Hello, welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Joey. And is it Tamara or Tamara? Tamara, perfect. All right. Welcome. Thank you both so much for taking the time this Sunday. And, before we get started in the questions, can you both just share a little bit about yourselves?
Sure. My name's Joey Berger, known in the community as the Humboldt Local. Though I did just move to Lake County about a month ago, I lived in southern Humboldt all of my life. Been in cannabis since I was a young kid, touched every part of it, and these days I'm doing a lot of teaching alongside my partner Tamara here. We host a lot of workshops and camps, sharing our background in permaculture and natural farming. And yeah, really excited to be sharing with you guys today some of the issues we see causing these fires and some of the solutions we see. Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm Tamara Thorne, and I'm the owner and founder of Field Eye Self Gardens. I've been out in Middletown in Lake County for about 11 years now, growing cannabis and herbs, and I do a lot of products with the herbs and the cannabis we grow. And before that, I traveled around the country and in Mexico. We taught environmental education, and I used to do wolfing work trade, and I learned about a lot of farming, different methods from all the different farms I went to. And then right before I came here, I took a permaculture class and just really dived deep into this whole realm of growing and also just figuring out how to live a sustainable life. And so, yeah.
Well, thank you both for that. Those that are tuning in, because we have a wide range of audience members through all the platforms that we're streaming. Some may be in cannabis, some may not, some may be in states that don't have any, much insight around cannabis just yet, or they're just, more on the medical side of things, just starting up. So what is regenerative farming?
Well, regenerative farming is really the ancient way of farming. This is how all farming was up until the advent of the chemical industrial agriculture model that we see now. Regenerative farming is farming in ways that don't harm the earth, whose practices generate life. They don't deplete soil. They don't deplete the biology in the soil. They generate these systems. It's how our ancestors farmed this way for eons, largely using animal manures and their own manures. So regenerative farming is really a way of closing those loops, looking at your land, looking at the resources around you, and figuring out how can you harness those powers, those plant allies, and make your own fertilizers, build that biology in your soil. How do we look at nature and mimic these systems that we see in nature that work so seamlessly? And how do we bring those onto our farms?
The question should have probably been more on, those that are unfamiliar with farming. I think I should have rephrased that on my end, but that was exactly the question. It was still the same. With that component, the next question was going to be, what are the benefits? And you kind of went through that already with just answering what is regenerative farming. One of the things I was researching when I was looking up the Humboldt local is that you both, you were mentioning host educational events, and I saw a region camp. What is that? And are you hosting that now? Can people come and join that now?
Yeah. We have our next event coming up. What is it? It's April 7th.
Easter weekend.
And we're going to be stepping people through a lot of different techniques on how to grow either cannabis or their vegetables, whatever you want to grow, using like everything that's around you. Like I'm teaching the Jadam liquid fertilizer, where it's like you're just taking plants from around your garden and being able to use those for your fertilizers, and like what that means. We're also talking a lot into how you create your own microbials into your garden and use your indigenous microorganisms that's there. And so we're doing some of those talks and how to make seed blocks and biochar, and what else are we going into? We're diving deep. We're kind of going deep into like what all the things that we use during the year to have a successful season. And some of our favorite things to show are just so simple too, where it's literally you're taking some plants, like let's say I want to do a really good veg tea. And so I'm going to go out and go grab a lot of alfalfa grass or some nettles, horsetail, and put those in a bucket or a 50-gallon barrel. I'm going to fill it with water. I'm going to add some leaf mold in that. And boom, there is my veg for the year. And then also you want to go into transition, and you're looking at your some of your fruit, your unripe fruit, your unripe blackberries, your unripe apples or something like that. And you can do the same thing. Then you're going into fruiting or blooming time. And so then you're going to have your ripe fruits, your flowers. You're gathering up all of these, anything that kind of relates to what's going on at that time. And yeah, and so you're using those, you're putting your leaf mold in, and you're getting way higher nutrients than you would if you just went to the grocery store and you're looking at this clear liquid stuff that you're like, is this really going to feed my plant or soil? But with the stuff that we're making, yes, it is. And so those are some of our fun things we're going to be going over, and how to really get your own microbial from your land and learn how to brew them up and then feed it back into your soil.
That sounds like a great weekend. And if anybody wanted to sign up for this, how could they do so?
You can go to tinyurl.com/RegenCamp4, or you can look on Facebook for Regen Camp with Joey Berger and Tamara Thorne.
Nice.
Check our Instagrams, the Humboldt Local 2.0 and heal_thyself gardens. Yeah, they've been really fun events. We ran a couple of them last summer, and they're a full day natural farming intensive. We're basically going to teach you in one day how to farm if you were to wash up on a deserted island with no grow store. Yes. And how you harness these plants all around you, because that's how nature farms, and that's how our ancestors farmed. And
we need to be knowledgeable in that. That's something that is important. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow, and we need those tools. I think people, even if their phone goes out, but one of the important questions that we wanted to really touch on is, with regenerative farming, how can you utilize your land to help create defensible space?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things we want to talk about is, when we talk about regenerative agriculture, we talk about permaculture, we talk about natural farming, what we're really talking about is indigenous knowledge, rebranded and repackaged indigenous teachings that our ancestors, left behind for us. And, I just moved down here from Humboldt, from southern Humboldt, from some Wailaki land. And the Wailakis, they were nomadic people. They moved from the ridge down to the creek, depending on the season. And they viewed what was happening in the forest, and they saw that after the lightning came and the fires came, that the acorns on the trees were healthier. And they realized that they started doing controlled burnings every few years. So the acorn was their main food source, that the oaks were healthier, that the pests and the parasites living in the downed acorns wasn't as bad. So every few years they would burn certain areas of the land there. And this would lead to, it would burn away the young fir trees, who are the successional species who overgrow the oak trees and replace the oak trees. They wanted a healthy food forest. They managed it as a food forest. And by doing that burning, there was more berries, there was more smaller bushes and shrubs, because the light could reach the forest floor, and you would get more of those early successional species. And so you would end up with more food, you would end up with more animals, a more diverse ecosystem, a healthier, stronger, diverse ecosystem. So we need to look to this ancient knowledge. We need to look to our ancestors. We can't just do the burning that they used to do, because we have some really settled settlements here now. But we can do a lot of controlled burning in the winter months, especially in our grassy lands, our open fields. There's a lot of this happening in southern Humboldt over this last winter. There's a lot of controlled burning happening, so we're happy to see that. And yeah, we've got to get into these forests, because these forests have been overgrown for the last 100 years. They should have been thinned out. Now we have an overgrown forest filled with fuel and fire loads. And so we go into these properties and we look at different ways we can use those as resources. How do we turn these dangerous waste streams into valuable resource streams? So we're going to talk to you about some of the ways we do that. And you've probably heard some of this today, but the biggest one we use this wood for is hugelkultur. Hugelkultur?
Yeah, the hugelkultur is where, first off, let me just say, I just messed up on the dates. The date for our camp is April 15th, 16th, and 17th. The actual date is the 16th on the 16th. So But the hugelkulturs, it's where you're going in and you're burying a lot of wood and you're putting different layers on that and then covering that back up with soil. And so, and there's different ways to do it. Like at my place, I did it in 2 different ways. I'm on a lot of rock, like heavy serpentine, where you go down not even an inch and there's just rock. And so, and I also have a lot of conifers, a lot of just like pine trees and stuff up and down my roads and things that are just all dead and brush. So this last year, what I did is I widened our roads. And so all of the wood that we used, we went ahead and buried it in these hugels that I had come in and dug like 6 feet deep. And we had to do it that deep. Usually you do not do it that deep, but there was many purposes I wanted to do that with. Is like one of them is that it's on a hillside. So as the water comes down, it's going to really sink it. And so hugelkulturs, when you do dig down, it creates, you're slowing your water. You're doing a permaculture technique where you're slowing, you're spreading, and you're sinking the water. And then that makes the water table go up higher. And then all of that wood and everything that we cleaned up around the roads and around the gardens, we just buried it. We put it down in there. And then on top, we just put a bunch of horse manure, goat manure, alfalfa, all kinds of things I kind of had just ready to go, old cannabis, a lot of things from the garden, and then put the soil back on top. So all that's been like marinating, and that's what the hugel is. It's like, it's just really burying all of that wood and creating life with it.
Yeah.
And but then there's also other ways to do it where you can do it directly on top of your soil, and then you just laying out the wood, and then you put soil over on that. So it kind of depends on what environment you have, but the hugels, you can do them anywhere. And it's just really great thing that you can do with all this wood that you're collecting from your forests. And it just breaks down so fast too. And it's like, oh, you got to use more. Oh, look, here's another place that hugel can go. And it just kind of keeps going, and it's fun.
Yeah.
That's one of the ways we use the wood right now. And then other things is building. You talked about the building we've been doing.
Yeah, certainly different types of wood can be used in natural building projects. We're doing a lot of thinning on Tomorrow's Farm right now. Smaller poles that are in the 6 to 3 inch range. We're cutting those out, and we're using those to build fences, what's called junk pole fence, which is a very simple fence invented by a permaculturist named Paul Wheaton up in Montana, where they have a lot of these junk poles from the pine beetle destroying the pine forests up there. So they actually get paid to go in and thin out those poles. Here, we're paying ourselves in creating that defensible space. We're stacking functions by taking that that dangerous wood out and using it to build a fence. A very simple fence, deer and rabbit fence that you can use minimal fasteners with. Pretty cool resource. So there's also lots of other things you can do. You know, you can do round pole timber framing. There's lots of different things you can do with that lumber. Certainly hugelkultur is one of the best. Great way to build soil, build the microbials in your soil. That wood, as it breaks down, it acts as a sponge. So it's absorbing what rainfall you do get. When you build them on a contour flat across the hill, all that water is going to hit it and soak in. And then as that wood is also breaking down, it's generating heat. So you'll be able to plant earlier. It extends your grow season. You can harvest later, plant earlier. If you build it with a steep walls on it, steep mounded side, you can end up with more square footage than you would with just a flat garden. Many benefits to it.
Yeah, and you can
quick
different
question.
sides of it, different kinds of plants. Like, you know, if things are more shade loving or if they're more sun loving, you get to play with that.
Oh.
It's really cool.
Huh. So I had a quick question in that really quick. With that, you know, as you're incorporating these, how quickly does the soil start to to accept this new process that it's, you know, becoming, or how long does it take to get the new soil that is coming so that it's easier to start growing? Is that a long process? Does it obviously not happen right away, but is that months or like years after you do the work that you guys are doing?
Well, depending on what you build it out of is going to, and the size and the shape is going to depend on how long it's going to take to break down. We build these, depending on the context, these ones we built at Tamara's, these will last decades. They're in a trench that's 6-8 feet wide and 6 feet deep. with a couple feet of manure on top of it and then a couple feet of topsoil on top of that. Her kids will be harvesting veggies out of these, and maybe her grandkids. I do a lot of consulting on farms in Humboldt. We built an acre of hugels in southern Humboldt, a farm we call Hugelville, where we're hosting our next regen camp. And a lot of that was fresh wood that we were cutting. You know, we were cutting dead and down stuff, but we went on 6 neighboring properties and cleared defensible space. But a lot of that was, there was some fresh wood, there was some dead wood, clearing along the roads, clearing around buildings. And so when you're using fresh wood, it's going to take longer for that wood to break down, and it's going to lock up more nitrogen during that process. So those beds, we knew we needed to do a bigger nitrogen layer. There's a carbon layer, there's a nitrogen layer, and then you've got your topsoil on top of that. So knowing that this was their first year and they were going to grow cannabis in it, we started that project in January, and they were planting in May and June. We laid on a thick layer of chicken manure and alfalfa and some different nitrogens. So they were able to grow a really rockin' killer crop in a first year of hugel, knowing that this crop they're getting ready to plant this year, now that it's had a good winter, you know, not a ton of rain, but certainly November and December were pretty good. It's all that has been broken down. It's starting to break down. It all got watered last summer, so the decomposition process has already begun. But there's a lot of different factors there. But you can build small hugels, you know, 3 feet wide, couple feet tall, just for some little salad greens. You can build them huge, you know, like we're talking, the big, you know, we build them with heavy equipment, excavators. And, all depends on your context. What are the materials you have available?
It starts breaking down, you know, really fast, and like really, it's like every year it's just going to get better. But if you do it right, you can plant that first year, and you're still going to have a nice crop.
And they get better with age. Tamara's on her third year with some of her hugels at her place, and her crop last year was just incredible. Around year 3, you're really going to start seeing some incredible changes. And as the biological levels build in these soils, your water use can go down. This also leads to more water conservation. Healthy soils require less water. You know, when you have high biological levels in there, you have the bacteria and the fungi. These are your smallest microbes. These excrete these excretions that hold soil particles together and can increase airflow in the soils. And so as these biological levels go up in your soil, that's what healthy soil is. That's the difference between dead dirt and healthy soil. So those are some of the things we teach, how to really increase that biology in your soil so you can feed less, because healthy biological soils don't need fertilizer. The microbes in there doing the work. So when you've got healthy soil, you can feed less, you can water less. The one issue they did have at Hugelville last year is they were overwatering, because they're used to, we converted a half acre of smart pots, fabric pots, to an acre of hugel. They're used to watering. You know, if you're in fabric pots, you're using a lot more water, and your biologicals are not going to be a lot. You're going to have to be feeding microbes, and you've got dead soil. This is a big thing in regenerative farming. How do we get those roots into the soil? How do we get that soil covered with deep layers of mulch? These are the things that will keep your biological levels happy and your plants healthy, and your water usage way down and fertilizer usage way down. More money staying in the farmer's pocket. That's what we really like to teach people.
And it sounds like you all have the tool, or the way that you teach people, it is also affordable. You have ways, it can be very affordable in the process. You're utilizing what's around you or what's on your neighbors, you know, helping them out too by utilizing their extra dried plants or trees or whatnot, right?
Most definitely. Yeah, that's one of our favorite things to like show people is like, I actually have some receipts from like years ago when I first started growing, and they're like $15,000. And compared to where I'm at now, where it's like a couple hundred, you know, I'm buying apple cider vinegar. I'm buying, you know, just like maybe I'm going and hunting down some 50-gallon barrels, you know, it's just so minimal. And that's really fun to show people, and how, especially right now when we're all struggling in the cannabis industry and just in life right now, I think it's a lot of change going on, to know that you don't need to go to the grocery store. You don't need to rely on that fertilizer that is now not coming in from Russia, what they're saying that we're going to have a problem this year in the middle of our country with growing food because there's no fertilizer. And we're like, there's fertilizer everywhere, like everywhere. And some of my favorite things, like I hunt down spots, like who has the best nettle, who's got the horsetail, who, these, once you start understanding like the different things that the constituents inside the plants, is it have more phosphorus? Does it have more potassium? Then you can start going and gathering those and hunting them down. And it's usually right around you too. And the same thing with like your pesticide. We don't buy pesticides. We make our own. And that's the same thing with other plants. Like I've got a ton of juniper on my property. So I harvest a lot of juniper, a lot of bay leaves, and then you boil that for like 5 hours. And then you're left with this super concentrated liquid. And then you combine that with like a soap, what we call a JWA, is like a Jadam wetting agent. But you can also find a biological liquid soap to also use with it. It's just cheaper, learning to make it yourself. But you add those two together, and that will knock out, I think, almost any pest issue I've come across. Like that, I feel like that's like my super powered weapon. Like I don't sit there, I'm like, I get to try out this new like herbal solution I made, and it's really cool to have that like in your back pocket going.
Yeah. So much knowledge you both have. Thank you for that. And go ahead.
What we love about teaching this stuff is it's all very simple. There's nothing that we teach that's difficult. You're really going to be able to learn this in a day, and that's why we love this stuff, because you can go home and see these results, and none of it's difficult. It's all simple. So yeah.
Hey, Joey and Tamara, we have a few people asking about hugel culture. Yeah, can you explain it? Maybe spell it, let people know, because there's some questions.
Yeah. All right. It's got a strange spelling because it's a German word. Hugel actually means hill. It's a hill culture because it's got this hill shape to it. It's HUGELKULTUR. Hugel culture.
That's I was not expecting that way to spell it.
We credit it with coming from Germany, but really this type of farming is done all over the world. They do this in the tropics. They do this in South America. Just those types of materials break down much sooner. A hugel might only last you 3 years, but that's fine. It's breaking down. You're getting killer soil. Building soil is not usually the problem in the jungle.
What is a common question, or maybe not even a question, but just feedback, after they go through your camp and they're leaving, or they reply back to you? What are their thoughts after that experience of learning all this from you all?
Just how simple it is, how they, you really realize how much money you spent on this stuff over the years. And, we were all really preyed on by these, by this industry that developed around the cannabis industry. That really doesn't have a place here anymore, and really doesn't have a place in agriculture. We need to get back to these indigenous ways. We're being brainwashed to think that most of the world's food is being produced by big ag, but only about 1/3 of it is. Most of the world's food is still being provided by small farmers who are still working the land with hand tools. So we got to realize that's still the majority of what's going on around the world, and we can provide a lot of our own food. And we should be providing all our own food. That is not below us at this point. I hope these last 2 years really help people to open up that is wealth. Yes. Health, and that is wealth. When that grocery store shuts down, and if you're a cannabis grower, what happens when that grocery store shuts down? Party's over. How are you going to provide your own food, your own medicine? So this indigenous knowledge is there. We're just rediscovering it. We don't like to teach just any one dogma. We want every tool in our toolbox. So we teach permaculture, we teach Korean natural farming, we teach Jadam, we teach living soil, biodynamics. We'll use anything that we feel is easy, simple to learn. If it's too difficult, the farmer's not going to do it. Yeah. So we take the easiest techniques possible and we dumb them down even more.
Yeah, we really try to put it into very lay terms. And I'm like, you see this bucket? You see this grass? Let's do it, and like help. And like from the feedback I get too is empowering. People feel empowered, and that's how I feel too. It's just like knowing that if there's a pest problem or that you're seeing that your plants are calcium deficient, that there's something that you can go whip up, and within 24 hours you can have like that problem underway of getting taken care of. And so that's a big one I get back. The feedback is the empowerment of that, and like going, and the excitement. People are like re-excited to do their gardens again, and that's really fun. Especially like I have a neighbor we're helping right now with his garden. He's like, he's been doing it for over 20 years, and now he's like, I'm excited to grow cannabis again, you know? And yes, getting people excited about their property, and they're actually hiking it looking for plants, you know, that it gets people excited. Wow. You're just like really there and in tune with nature. It's that harmony we really need to remember that we are part of. And yeah.
No, I love this. And I think this is, again, so much insight. And I'm seeing some conversations. They're saying such a wealth of information. So I think everybody's resonating. And again, those that are tuning in, you can experience this at their camp. And you said it was the 16th or the 15th through the 17th?
April 16th is the main day of camp, but we got 3 days of events. You can come just for a half day too. So yeah, it's April 15th, 16th, and 17th, and it's Regen Camp.
Yeah, we're gonna have a big party. If you're gonna come that night before, you can come and camp, and we're either gonna do a movie or some music. The next day we're gonna wake up, have a really good breakfast, do our really intensive camp, but then at night we're gonna have some other Dragonfly Earth Medicine certified farmers talking about, you know, just different ways that we can do things in our farms and with the way that they do their different closed loop systems. And then we're gonna end it with some more music and party on. It's gonna be a blast.
Sounds like a great weekend.
Yeah, and then the next day we're going to do a kid and adult Easter egg hunt. So we're kind of excited for that. I'm gonna do some yoga in the morning. So yeah.
You guys make sure that you put the link to the event in the chat somewhere so people can like click right into it. That would be amazing.
Perfect.
Thank you,
Perfect. Thank you both.
Tamara and Joey, for sharing your wisdoms with us. I'm excited that we got so much response that people are interested in this. And the way you two explained it was so beautiful, because it really was that this is just the way nature works. And, you know, this is how we regenerate the earth instead of keep taking from the earth. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate it, you guys. I'm hoping to get down and see you for it. All right, Adelia. Well, we are now going into the live studio at Redwood Royal Grown, and we've got Rob, who we've been running around doing these things with for a little bit. He's a core part of the Humboldt Grace community. And there we are. Hi, guys.
Hello. Welcome back.
Sequoia and I are headed over that way, and we're going to be there right around when Daniel shows up, I think.
Oh, you can't do that. He's already here. We've got the birthday boy and entourage already on site. We're getting started. So.
Well, Kat's going to take over production for me, so we can come over and hang out. We'll see you guys soon.
Wonderful. See you soon.
Good to see you, Rob. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you too, Lele.
Good. I'll see you in person in a bit.
All right.
So I'm super excited to be sitting here with longtime friend, guest Rob Golightly, who's been involved in all sorts of projects over the years in Humboldt, from the very beginning of 215 legislation and legalization all the way through to being currently active in the top level of getting the laws passed and getting the community's voices heard in the laws as best we can, which obviously is sometimes a challenge. So, you know, we're supposed to talk about the journey through legalization, but we have like 10 minutes. So how to tie the community aspect and the legalization journey in rapid form go, you know?
Well, I think it'd be like a community shout out. We should all read the new regulations just got dropped a few days ago.
Oh, wow.
So that would be like the starting point of kind of where we're at right now with where we're going to go in the future. And so I haven't actually read the new regs since they came out, but
it's time to get cracking.
It's time to get cracking, definitely. And I think there's definitely some things that that I know they're going to loosen up and not be as strict about transportation and different things. But who's to say?
And now's the time people are trying to figure it out. As you know, was being mentioned a lot of times earlier, there are a lot of people that aren't planting this year, a lot of people that are still not sure if they're planting this year. Trinity County is in mayhem currently. So, you know, there's a lot going on. I think it's really important, to get up to date, because if it just dropped 2 days ago, none of us know what's happening yet.
Yeah, a lot of people are definitely not growing from a distribution standpoint. We talk to farmers, and we have a nursery also, and definitely are not getting the same amount of orders as we did last year and prior. And so definitely people are putting the brakes on. I think a lot of people are just going to grow less amounts too, and just higher qualities. But definitely there'll still be a lot of people doing it.
Yeah, and I guess one of the big questions I've had throughout all these conversations is, when somebody decides not to plant, are they still responsible for that full canopy tax?
Well, in Humboldt, you're allowed to go fallow, I think they call it, and then you're allowed to zero out your square footage as long as you don't grow on your property.
Okay.
You don't have to pay the tax. You do have to stay current with the state license, and that might be something in the regs that have recently changed. I know that they were trying to get the state to acknowledge not charging farmers for years that they take off out of the regulated market.
Yeah, because it was a big fear-based thing where if you took a year off or decided not to pay, you basically forfeit your license and have to go through the process completely again, right?
Yeah, at first that was the case, and that was one of the first amendments to Measure S. Was definitely, at first they were going to make people just pay the tax even if they didn't do it.
Wow. So definitely get up to date on these new regs, but like, looking back, I think it's important for people at home to recognize how much community involvement went into getting the regs to where they are through the years. So what are some of the community people that you've been working with over the last 15 years, really negotiating this whole track to get us to where we are today?
Well, this last group of regs, we basically just were able to, at our company, at the distribution, just a stone's throw away from here, we were able to come up with as a company, and we just created a bunch of complaints against things that weren't working for different businesses, things that we hear on the street, things that taxes. We really pointed out to them how the taxes were. We had a corporate, or they called it an executive walkthrough, and we actually met the head of the Department of Cannabis Control. And so we printed out a bunch of these things with all our complaints in our letter to them, and handed it out to them. And they were definitely something they said they would use in the future regulations.
Wow. Again, getting involved, it makes a difference.
Speaking up, email. I mean, they say that they listen to people's emails. And so really, like, the first complaint should be an email to the DCC. If you have a problem, if something's not working, tell them.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how this community was created, was being vocal. And, that's how 215 came into place.
Right.
And the early days, it's all about being vocal and getting involved and not shying away from it. And, we talked about this in our interview before, that it's happening all over, where new laws are going through in new places and people aren't coming out from the shadows because they're afraid. Like, get out there, say something, shape the law.
Yeah, when I actually collected signatures for Proposition 215, or before that even, 80% of the people that you would ask or more would like cuss at you or tell you you're crazy and just refuse to even hear what you were talking about, back in the 90s. And yeah, it's crazy how much things have changed, and now like psychoactives are trending and becoming legal. And 30 years ago we were deemed crazy because we were telling people this plant was medicine, and it's obviously medicine.
Yeah, it truly is.
Crazy.
No, it truly is. And that's one thing that I think a lot of the conversations throughout the day, and a lot of the people from all aspects of the community that we've spoken with, from technology to farming, it's all about that intent.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lineup today is very impressive. It's killer to come up with like a revolutionary person like Joey, who's figured out this way for farmers to survive if they follow that path, and all the work he did with the trim scene solutions and being revolutionary in the whole extraction scene. Um, yeah, they had a bunch of good guests on today.
Yeah, it's been really amazing for me to watch. I learned so much about regenerative farming. It's something I look into and am active in every day in some way or another, trying to do it in my yard or integrate concepts into products we're developing at Royal Gold. But I still learn from the people that were here today in real time. It's pretty amazing.
Definitely.
So, and that's, I guess, part of the journey through legalization that is really changed so much lately, is now all of this stuff that got passed around among cannabis growers in private on hillsides is now being elevated. You know, a lot of these are ancient techniques, but are things that people were doing at cannabis farms for the last 30, 40 years that weren't widespread. And now we're talking about these regenerative farming techniques that people have been using in these hills. And it's really elevated that piece of agriculture in a huge way.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because when I started growing when I was a kid, we had to make our own dirt and soil in the holes that we were growing in. And so we were making, I guess, the agitated teas, they call them now.
Yeah.
35 years ago, to make nutrients ourselves, right? And when we were little kids, we learned how to make, and we would make basically sun teas and use those as our nutrients.
Yeah, and those are the things that, like, the research into, well, why is this working?
And then it's funny though, the way that we went all into hydroponic growing, and then went through all these different chemical procedures, and then organic nutrient procedures and bottles, and then came back to this way now that, whoa, we can do it all naturally. If you have a good piece of property and a huge biodiversity, you can like use all the inputs from your land to grow all your herb, and so you really don't even need to truck nutrients or anything into your property if you have the right space to do it.
Right, and you can use these techniques to make your property more fire safe, which is, being that we're on the Humboldt Grace fire auction right now, which this is coming to an end. Get in there and make sure to bid on your items. There's so many amazing things on the auction. Don't forget to go check in on that. But there's just so much going on in building for resiliency in our communities, and that's one way to capture water, to utilize the organic matter in an effective way to get it out of your home out of fire danger a little bit.
Yeah, I think one way of survival for farmers right now is to look into getting fire grants for your property and for your neighborhoods, and look into, they pay you to do the work, and so the government will pay you to do fire retention and fire safety programs. And so we can easily be working and getting grant money and doing side projects off our properties right now and be getting funded. Like, some of the biggest funding in California through grants is going to be for fire retention safety. And so if farmers don't jump on that and become involved with that kind of thing during the winter times and the down months, they're missing out on some monies that are available.
Yeah, we spoke with Jeremy Brown, one of the Trinity County Board of Supervisors, and he was saying the same thing. Get out there and look at what's available to you, because there's things that, while it is under the concept of, fire prevention and all this, it's going to help your farm. It's going to help make you more cost effective. It's going to help make your farm a better place. And why not take advantage to build the community in such an excellent way and get that government money that's been allocated for people like you to do these things?
It's grants. It's using our tax money that we pay on. And so if grants are utilized in your industry, you're lucky to be able to catch that money, because it helps you on paying taxes too. Like there's ways to get tax incentives too by doing these things.
Well, that's so important right now, as so many farmers are going fallow and struggling, but still want to continue to work on their properties and build for the future. These are ways that you can make that a little less painful.
Right.
Wow. Well, we've gone through at least 10 minutes of this journey of legalization to tie back to regenerative. I know Lele's coming in.
Lele's coming in. So I'm stepping in for a second while she's journeying over there. And the journey to legalization is a lot longer than 10 minutes. So you did a great job. I believe Adelia is going to come in and bring up, review some of the auction items and where we are. And then I think we have a few clips to show. So thank you so much, Rob. And Michael, we'll see you in a second.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, we're going to chat a little bit about the auction. So I have been watching the ticker and it is still going up, which is good.
I've been bidding. I don't know about you, but I've been bidding and I think I've already been outbid.
Oh, yeah. Keep going back to those bids. I wanted to chat about a couple new items. Well, not new items, but a couple new items that I saw as I was scrolling. I don't know if you saw it, Kat. Did you see that custom designed water and smell-proof bag and skateboard set?
No, I did not. I was looking at the beauty products.
Were you? Okay. I'm going to pull it up really quick. I just thought it was so interesting. It has some good, let's see. Oh, I think my screen just has to come up really quick. There we go. Oh, no. Is it? I don't know if it's named after mine. Maybe not.
Lele, do you want in? Nod your head, Lele, if you want in.
Well, so a little bit about that. It's from Barrett Farms. It's inspired by the beauty of Humboldt County. And yeah, they have this design skateboard that has all this cool artwork, even the smoke, not smoke, but even the smell-proof bag has a really cool design. And we have lots of trips. So another trip I found on here
Wait, and yeah. Adelia, have you been up to Humboldt yet?
I have been to Humboldt. I haven't been able to spend as much time as I would like. I always go up there for Emerald Cup, and but I don't get to see as many of my friends' farms as I would like to, or their homes. So definitely planning a trip. They keep telling me I have to come visit, so I can't wait to do that soon.
Yeah, well, I have not been up there. I'd love to visit, so I'd love a place to stay when I visit. And I'd love lots of tours of lots of farms. So there you go.
Putting it out there. Anybody listening, will invite me and Kat. We'll spend a week up there.
Yeah.
One other one was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. Go ahead.
So one other item I just wanted to touch on really quick about is there's also a one-night stay at the Carriage House. It also has a dinner for two at the Igomar Club, and the venue just looks beautiful. It's a very old Victorian house that looks very upkept, and it looks just absolutely amazing. So keep getting those bids in. There's so much.
Yeah, and I'll say that we have links to the auction posted on the Future Cannabis Project's YouTube channel, on Humboldt Grace's Facebook, and on the Ethical Data Alliance's Facebook page.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And if you
I'll tell you what, I think it's video time. I'm going to show a couple clips, yeah? And then we will wait for our next segment of breeders to load in.
I like the way that sounds.
Amount of dollars that are going to the producers, the amount of dollars that are going to taxation, and what the consumer is paying, those numbers just aren't in line.
Totally.
When I think across the board, like getting over the stigma of cannabis and then being dangled with this huge amount of money involved creates this complete shit show from state to state. There's no uniformity even from county to county or municipality to municipality.
Everybody's seeing dollar
It's
signs.
so different than
yeah.
what happened with alcohol prohibition, where
Totally.
it was just lifted across the board and it opened up business to kind of operate pretty much the same, unless there were certain areas maybe you couldn't be open on a Sunday, but pretty fucking minor when you're looking at it in comparison to cannabis.
Yeah, I've been a party.
I bet he fell over the